Minimalism is something that I've always had an interest in, and it's also something that I've failed at many times. And although it's sort of a trend in the West, it's more of an established part of life in Japan. You see forms of it in various traditional arts, like in my shakuhachi playing. Or ikebana flower arrangement. Japanese garden. Architecture, fashion, and the list goes on. So I was wondering what it is that takes this trend and evolves it into a way of life. I recently came across a paper published in the journal Contemporary Aesthetics called On Japanese Minimalism by Dr. Paul Himes of Ritsumeikan University in Kyoto. And in it, he describes an often overlooked Japanese aesthetic as being at the heart of what we consider Japanese minimalism to be. I'm calling it the 3 pillars of Japanese minimalism. Japanese and Western notions of minimalism and beauty are a little different in that restraint and transience are 2 important factors in beauty. In the article, he shows how Japanese Zen Buddhist influences drive an intuitive preference towards minimalism. There are 2 Japanese gurus of lifestyle minimalism that dominate the space in the West: Marie Kondo, or Marie Kondo, and Fumio Sasaki. Marie has encouraged everyone to spark joy and declutter their places by getting rid of everything that doesn't hold real meaning for themselves. Fumio wants us to focus on what's really important and says that true richness comes from immersing yourself in life, not your belongings. Of the 3 pillars of Japanese minimalism in the paper, 2 Japanese aesthetic traditions are looked at and as the basis for what we in the West consider Japanese minimalism to be. The first one stems from Zen Buddhism, and it's the concept of ma, which is space, or the space between things. In the Shizen style membership community on my website, I have an ebook on spatial design and composition for designing your Shizen style Japanese garden, if that's something that you're interested in. Ma is this beautiful negative space between things that brings the viewer's attention to the spaces between the objects, as well as the harmony of the objects as well. Ma doesn't alone make up a basis for minimalism. It's part of it, but there's more. He suggests that another part of the pillar of Japanese minimalism comes from the concept of Wabi-Sabi. This is the Zen Buddhist philosophy of simplicity and an acceptance of imperfection. Wabi refers to rustic simplicity and austerity, while Sabi focuses on the rust, decay, and natural aging of something, but also implies loneliness. Wabi-Sabi continues to influence many designers and artists in Japan and abroad. Famous architects Tadao Ando and Kengo Kuma acknowledge the deep influence that Wabi-Sabi has on their style of modern architecture, with Kengo Kuma blending Japanese bamboo and modern textiles to create what he calls is a new kind of Wabi-Sabi. The problem with only relying on Wabi-Sabi as a base for minimalism in Japan is that not all minimalist designs adhere to the rustic or aged implications of the term. So now we finally get to the 3rd pillar of Japanese minimalism, and that's Shibui, or Shibumi as a noun. Shibumi is what we would call understatedness or subtle elegance. It can be described as a quiet sense of taste, whether it's in food, fashion, or design. It's a subdued color palette with simple patterns. Iki is a somewhat related term you may have also heard of, but is more defined by being chic, stylish, and elegant, as well as flashy and trendy. Although similar, and they can overlap, Shibumi is considered more humble and subtle, and often has an air of sophistication without the need for bold colors and attention from the masses. Shibui is a term that can apply to both old and new, and doesn't seem to have the connotation of being elitist. Soetsu Yanagi, founder of the Japanese Minge crafts movement, believes that Shibumi is something that transcends quickly passing fads and trends and affects all levels of society and guides the tastes of Japanese people. He says that even people of the flashiest sort know in the back of their mind that Shibumi is a class above them. It contains something that resides outside of time, a truth that is always new and fresh. It harbors a deep Zen significance. Hames suggests that Shibumi may be the wabi side of the Wabi-Sabi, in that it refers more to the simple elegance as opposed to the rustic and aged side of Sabi. Overall, the three pillars of Japanese minimalism are Ma, Wabi-Sabi, and Shibumi. And I'm very familiar with Ma and Wabi-Sabi, mainly from studying Japanese traditional music, gardens, and sumie black ink painting. But Shibumi was something that I haven't ever really been able to put my finger on. I love the idea of a humble and subtle sophistication that transcends short-term trends. And I can see how these three concepts can influence your tastes and being drawn towards minimalism. Make sure you subscribe to my Japanese aesthetics playlist here on my channel so we can continue to do these deep dives together. And if you'd like to discuss how we can begin to use this information and make some real changes in our own lives, then join me and the like-minded community over at shizenstyle.com.